Welcome to Original Being, where we explore the timeless wisdom of ancient practices and old ways of living. From holistic health and wellness to survival techniques, homesteading, and primitive skills. I'm Jillian Ariz, a functional and holistic-minded physician associate and a homesteading mother of 3. I am on a quest to reconnect with the knowledge our ancestors lived by, practical skills, natural healing, and self-sufficiency in a modern world. Each episode, I'll be sharing insights, experiences, and conversations with experts and everyday people who embody this mindset. Together, we'll challenge modern conveniences, embrace hands-on learning, and rediscover the practices that have stood the test of time. Disclaimer, the information shared on this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. My opinions and those of my guests are solely our own and are not affiliated with any institutions, employers, or certifications. This podcast does not provide medical advice, and any health-related decisions should be made in consultation with your personal healthcare provider. By listening, you acknowledge that you take full responsibility for your own choices and actions. Today on Original Being, we have Harmony Cronin. Harmony is an old-world craftswoman straight out of a fantasy novel, part wild-tending Mad Max motorcycle collapsist with her bags full of seeds, part fairy maiden living in the dark wood, speaking to dead animals more than other humans. She has spent the last 18 years studying all manner of magic, the last 15 years immersed in ancestral lifeways, and the last 7 living full-time in an off-grid canvas tent in pretty extreme environments. She and her community now live on a 20-acre plot of raw forest in Quilcene, Washington, where they just started a primitive skills gathering. She is building a cob house in order to live more like her Celtic Isle ancestors, runs a folk school called Gathering Ways, organizes the Buffalo Bridge Project, is a death doula, and puts on wild food camps and much more. Hi, Harmony.
Hey, hi.
Did I say that right? Quilcene, Washington?
Yeah, it's a strange word. Yeah, Quilcene.
Okay. I've never heard it said, so I wasn't totally sure. So I'm so excited to have you on. I probably say that to all my guests because I always pick people I really want to talk to, but I feel like this is an especially special interview. So I thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I was just telling you, but I'll tell our guests, I listened to a couple other podcasts that you've already been on, and you should all go listen to them. And I think, Harmony, you have them on your website too, so they could go to your website and find those episodes where Harmony really dives deep into her past and her upbringing and how she got to where she is today. So even though I usually start that with my guests, I think that everyone should go listen to those so we can, take Harmony's time to talk about some other really cool things. So let's just start. Well, you're living right now. You're still living in a canvas tent while you build the cob house?
Yep, I am.
And how is this a different tent than you were in before? Because I also read something about you had another one you were living in that you ended up having to leave and reassemble. So can we just talk about how those 2 different tents and life living in them came to be?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I first moved into a tent, 7 years ago, I think. And that tent was huge. It was 18 by 24 feet, massive. And so that was in Eastern Washington outside of Twisp on a friend's land. And we had a big community out there. I think there was 12 of us living there and some kids and a bunch of animals, horses and goats and sheep and all the chickens and turkeys. And so I lived in that tent for quite a while. And then it was an old tent. I bought it for $500 and it just started deteriorating. And so when it was no longer a viable option, I bought this tent that I'm in now. And I've been in this tent for maybe 4 years, I think, year round. And so, yeah, I moved into a different place in Eastern Washington. So that's where the bulk of my living off grid in a tent was, which if you've been to Eastern Washington, we have insane winters. We're talking 4-foot snowpack all winter long. Oh, wow. Really, really intense, extreme environment. And then it's 120 degrees in the summertime, And so, which meant basically that I lived outside during the summer. I didn't really go inside from May to October. And then recently, last year, I moved onto this plot of land, which is in the rainforest on the Olympic Peninsula. And we have been living in this tent for the last year. And it's a whole different extreme environment. It's a rainforest. It's misty. Yeah. It's wet. Everything molds really fast. In Eastern Washington, mold doesn't exist. I never thought about things going moldy. Out here, it's I mean, if you put something out on the porch for a few days, it goes moldy. So,
Yeah, I was
yeah,
reading
I've
your
been
struggle with that, like trying to, manage the mold and the moisture and everything, and because it could ruin hides and all kinds of stuff that you have there. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's been really a humbling experience. And I love tent life. And I'm kind of sad that tent life is drawing to a close pretty soon.
Well, when you moved into the first tent, so did you own that land for the first tent? You own the land you're on now, correct?
Right. Yeah, me and my community. Yep.
So how did you
Um
find a place to put that first one? Like if someone wanted to do that, like how would they just find a place that they can have a long-term tent living situation?
yeah, that's a really good question. Well, my friends owned land and they were looking for community. So they had put out a call for folks who wanted to live off grid and live in more intentional ancestral ways. And so that's why I moved out there. And that was the same. I lived on two different properties out there. I didn't own either of them, but they were friends and yeah, part of the primitive skills world. And so I do recommend that, tent life is really easy in that it doesn't really require you to build. I mean, I have a platform that I built, but that's
Mm,
a pretty simple project. And so if you don't own the land, it's a nice way to have a pop up house that's really viable to live in long term without a ton of labor into something you might have to leave, right? If you don't own the land, something could happen. And so you take your home with you, which is
mhm,
awesome. Also, national forests are a pretty viable place to live. You just have to move. I think depending on the state, you have to move every 2 weeks or something. So if you
hmm,
want to be more nomadic and move like that, you live for free. It's totally legal. There's tons of wild foods and, it's like a beautiful way to live. And I've done a lot of that, but not in a wall tent, just out of my truck too.
mhm. Yeah, your background is so interesting with different like hitchhiking and moving around, and I think that it's definitely unique
Yeah.
where you got to where you are. I'm a little bit interested in like the logistics of the tent living too, because like you have to have a little wood stove and stuff too, right? And then
Yeah.
and then what are the setups for? I think now you said you have hot water. What is the setup for that?
Yeah, so I have a big old wood stove, and that's probably the most important thing about living off grid is you keep a fire going the entire winter.
Mm,
And I mean literally like we don't even think about it. We're just always feeding it. It's always on a low grade cold. Um And for a long time, I didn't have any hot water. I would just heat kettles on the wood stove. Now it's so fancy. We have like a off-grid pump that runs. We have a small battery pack that lives in the corner of the house now, which this is all new to me. I never had electricity. I just would charge my phone in my truck and that was it. And now my partner is domesticating me a little bit, but I love him. And so we have a battery pack that runs on solar. And so we have the ability to plug in a little pump and then it's an on-demand hot water system. So I have a sink now with hot water running out of it. Amazing. It's just like mind blowing. And then it drains into a bucket and then it overflows and then it's like a constant thing and it's always very finicky and it's not and we're hauling all of our water here. We don't have a well, we don't have a spring, we don't have anything. So right now we have a trailer with like a big IBC tote in it that's 300 gallons. So we drive to a spring that's 5 minutes down the road and fill up and then bring our water here. And so in order to have water, there's still like a lot of steps. It's not just
mhm.
coming out of the wall.
Right, right. It's not that convenient.
Yeah, totally,
Well,
which I prefer. I really
yeah.
prefer, like, me having to work to get my needs met.
A lot of people that are off grid, they're in some kind of proximity to a natural spring. So I always think about this. Like, I'm like, if I was to live off grid here, like, where would this natural spring be? How would I get water? It just seems like everyone's like, oh, I just go to the spring and fill it up. But I don't personally know of a spring very close to where I live. I'm sure there is one, or there's a secret one or something.
Yeah.
So do you like plan where you're going to live based on a spring or based on where you're going to get your water?
That's such a good question. We really lucked out with this property. We didn't really think that through all the way, and luckily for us, because the other properties in this area, when they've drilled wells, have hit salt water.
Mm.
And so we're not going to drill a well. So water in this area, even though it's the rainforest, it's still kind of a tricky point for people off grid. So we just lucked out, to be honest, that there's a
Okay.
public spring 5 minutes away. But there is a website called
Yes.
findaspring.com. And that's rad. So everywhere I go, because I don't drink city water if I can help it. So everywhere I go, like on road trips and stuff, I'm always on Find a Spring and I'll just go fill up water there. But yeah, thinking about water is a really important thing. I mean, here we're doing a lot of rainwater catchment too. We don't
Mhm.
have the full system set up yet, but that's what people here off grid do because water just falls from the sky.
There's so much
And then you
rain.
have to
Yeah.
filter it and stuff like that. Which I personally would rather drink spring water because all the minerals and it's living water.
Mhm.
Whereas with the rainwater, it has to go through so many filters that essentially it's not as living, right? It's not as vibrant after it goes through all the filtration. But it's great for gardens and dishes and
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
showers and stuff like that.
Well, I want to branch into you're living a life that you're trying to live in the old ways. You're building this cob house, which you were inspired by your ancestors, correct? And you
Yeah.
went to Ireland and saw these houses. And actually, if you don't mind, can I read a little excerpt from one of your Substacks when you went on that trip?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do it.
Because I think this is so just pertinent to everything I'm going to talk about. So Harmony went to Ireland and was touring. What are they, cob houses at the place with the like old fashioned village with the little reenacting lady?
So that was actually on the Isle of Man, which is
Okay.
between England and Ireland. Yeah, it's the village Cregneash is what it's
Mm.
called.
Okay. So she was touring there, and you know how they have the reenactors, like people dressed up trying to pretend they're in the old days. And the lady was saying how they had to go up the hill to get their water and there was no electricity and they had to make everything by hand and how it was just, aren't we so glad we don't have to do that anymore? Aren't we so glad we don't have to live that way? And this is what Harmony writes in her Substack about this. I almost interrupted her to tell her that she is wrong, that there are people still alive who live this way and choose to because it is a worthy kind of life. That modernity killed the old ways by shaming the elders out of their culture and convincing the young people that they deserved better. Sent them wandering through the world as homeless orphans, money hungry because they were told their traditions were worthless. That the walk for water through the wildflower meadow was sacred and that it wasn't hard, that working a 9 to 5 was hard, that not having a village was hard, that not having any culture but the culture of commerce was hard. I wanted to ask her why so many young people are ending their lives if we have it so easy, why there is so much isolation and neurosis and depression, why they can't even leave the house anymore. What ease is she talking about? Oh, it's like making me tear up. I didn't expect that. Just to read it
Yeah.
again. Yeah, like I think like I've grown up in such a like no quote unquote normal life, wanting this, wanting these old ways, talking about this, making a podcast about it, and people questioning me and questioning why would you want to live that way, why, or thinking that our modern amenities and our modern conveniences are so necessary, but what are we trading those for? What have we lost by living this life, and what would we gain by going back to some of those old ways? What are your thoughts on that, or on that passage too? I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. Yeah, it really brings up so much grief. I didn't know it was going to touch that place in me either. But yeah, the tears are so close. I mean, ho who among us feels whole? Like, who among us wakes up every day knowing that, they belong and that they have worth and meaning? Like, these things that seem like should just be birthrights are something our generation is struggling with so much. Like, something as important as feeling like you belong somewhere. And I mean, I can understand, you know, why people left the old ways when there was all this promise of you can own land too, and you can have a farm and you can be successful. Like, all the promises that were made. Um, I can understand and I can trace that history. And it's filled with so much. Well, it's filled with so much. All of it, right? There was joy when people were leaving and coming to the new world, and some people did create lives that were more abundant than what they had. Um, but I think that it only took a couple generations, and and my friends are killing themselves. But yeah, we have access to like the most abundant resources in the world. So something so sacred and holy is lost when we don't have to walk through the flowers to get our water. And we don't have to use our bodies to get our needs met. And right, we're using other people's bodies. We're using the ghost slaves in India and Indonesia and the farmers in Fiji for our apple. We're outsourcing to other people's bodies. And I think that makes us really spirit sick. I think
Hmm.
we're designed to use our bodies and the people around us to create our lives. And so, right, and like to track the stories too. Like, I'm eating breakfast, I'm using a bowl that my father carved for me and a spoon that I traded from the shepherd. And I think our spirits are designed to be able to track everything in our lives. And I'm looking around my house, and even me, I mean, I have my coffee maker from, I don't know, China probably, and I can't track that glass back to the earth. I can't track that metal back to the earth. And I think this overwhelm with like all of this ease coming from all over the world really confuses us, and it confuses our sense of belonging, right? And so, I don't know, that's what's coming up for me right now is that deep grief of missing the village.
Yeah. Yeah, I just did that buckskin class recently, and I've gone to some other primitive skills gatherings, and that is my favorite part is all of us just sitting around a fire making something, working on something. And then when you do put that effort into, just I guess Tana Hyde, for example, thinking about ancient cultures and how much work that took to make that. And like, but it was work that was meaningful, and you knew like how it was going to be used, and you knew that it was the animal you killed, and you just, yeah, it's the story and it's gratitude. And I almost feel like, yeah, when you have less things, those things are more important. Like when you're talking about the bowl your father made, I always think about this at Christmas time because, of course, I have 3 kids, and of course they want all these different things, and they, want the normal kid things. And I think, well, but what about when they used to just have that like one handmade thing that their parents gave them, and they were just so excited and so grateful for that?
Yeah.
Because they're just, most kids, I think, they're getting a lot of other things now, and they're not just getting this one handmade thing, or they wouldn't even be grateful for it now. They'd be like, what is this? Like, I don't
Right.
want that. And yeah, I think that there's just so much to be said for all these things. And my most prized possessions are just like you said too, like things that I made with my hands, or that I made at a primitive skills gathering, or someone else made for me really special. Those are the only things I'd run out of the burning house with.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, I know you've talked a lot about Buffalo Bridge, but Buffalo Bridge, I think, is how I initially found you. And it's always been a dream of mine to go. I don't know when or how, if I'll make it out, but I want to so badly. So if you don't mind kind of going again, because I know you have talked about this with other people, but just sort of like briefly, like what it is. And then I think, has it evolved a little bit this year too, if there's a change to like what's happening or what's happening with that?
Yeah, totally. So Buffalo Bridge is a camp that we set up to assist indigenous buffalo hunters outside of Yellowstone National Park. And so I think there's 8 or 9 tribes right now hunting buffalo outside of Yellowstone that have traditional treaty rights to hunt there and have always been hunting there, stretching back into time immemorial. Um, and there's more tribes trying to get their treaties enacted even now. And so we set up I mean, it's looked a couple different ways in the past, depending on the needs of the members. Like when we were younger, we were doing this canvas camp a month long or even more. And we would set up really close to the killing fields, the hunting fields. And we just help. We just ask Indigenous hunters if they want help. And if they want help, then we help them. And sometimes they're like, no, we got it. But a lot of times they're stoked to have help. Um, and then as some of us had children, we did it out of an Airbnb a few years, which was really cute. But now we're going back to Canvas Camp, which is super exciting. So this year, yeah, we're going to be doing it again. And so essentially we set up like 5 canvas structures and we have wood stoves. It's basically a huge outfitted camp, like a full kitchen tent and a meat processing tent and sleeping tents. And yeah, we're, anywhere from 10 to 30 people and families. And so that's like the essence of what the camp does. And what kind of branches out from that is usually from assisting Indigenous folks. They will gift us even just even just a spine, because legally they don't have to take every single part. I think they can take the meat off the bones but leave the spines because they're 6 feet long, right? But even just one buffalo spine, we will pressure cook it down and get gallons of bone broth and pulled meat and all this stuff. And so yeah, a lot of times they'll gift us things and tell us we can take whatever they don't want to take, like livers and hearts and stomachs and spleens and all the things. And they'll gift us hides and heads, all this just amazing bounty. And now, because I think this will be our 12th year, we started it in 2014. So 2026 will be our 12th year. So we have really strong tribal relations now. And so over the years, families have come to I wouldn't say rely on us because they got it, right? But when we're out there, they're able to harvest more animals than if we weren't there because we're just, we are able to process more. And so we'll get families that call us and ask us hey, when are you guys going to be out there, and try to time when they're going to be out there. Because, these people are hunting for ceremonies and Sundance and funerals and weddings and to fill the tribal freezers and stuff. And so it's been really awesome the way that it branches out like that. So we're able to assist them, and then we get all this crazy goodness that we get to experiment with in camp. So we're tanning hides, we're making bladder bags and heart bags and making jerky and processing bone. We're just doing all the primitive skills in mass because we're getting 100 legs sometimes. I don't know. Just so many, the lower legs. And so it's been so wonderful because we get to experiment with these technologies that, other people are doing it, certainly, but we get such a number of items, and especially the longevity of what we've been doing. So, not only do we experiment with bladders, we experiment with every way we could possibly make a bladder bag and what works and what lasts for now a decade. You know what I mean? We just get this unique opportunity to really hone in these technologies that were intentionally destroyed during colonization. So yeah, I guess that's the heart and soul of the project. And I could talk forever about Buffalo Bridge, all the goodness that has happened and the tribal relations that we have. Yeah, so this year we're doing something a little bit different. We are setting up the Canvas Camp, and then we're offering a 5-day skills immersive that new people can join. And so, yeah, there's information about that on our Patreon or I think it's on my website. Yeah, I think it's on my website. So there's a 5-day window that people can sign up for and come and be immersed in all the craziness and goodness of the winter camp. And the only kicker is with this one is you can't predict a hunt, right? We're making an educated guess based on patterns, but the reason it's different this year is because we've chosen dates to go regardless of if there's hunting or not. Usually the most challenging part about this is usually we just say we keep January to March completely open. And then we're like talking to people out there and, oh, is there migration yet? Or is there hunting? And we try to time it when the migration actually happens. But then it's like at a drop of a hat, we have to go. And so that's really challenging, especially as people have children now and jobs and stuff. And when we were in our early 20s, it was fine, you know? So, right. So we've chosen a date now, and we're going to pray and hope, and we will see what happens. And even if the buffalo hunt isn't timed up, the tribes also have the rights to hunt elk. And so usually even if the buffalo aren't migrating, elk are pretty abundant everywhere. And so often we'll get taken out on elk hunts with the tribes, which is really rad. There's tons of roadkill. I mean, one year we processed 7 roadkill elk, which is like insane. And
this is
we'll
Montana,
also,
right?
yeah, this is right outside of Yellowstone, which is just wild animals everywhere. So that's the vibe for this year. So if people wanted to join, that's how you can join. And then once you've come to Buffalo Bridge, you're considered alumni. And then you're welcome to like join us in the future, not as a like a student, right? You're like part of home crew at that point. Yeah.
Cool. Oh my gosh, I want to go so badly.
Yeah, come bring the kids. Yeah, I think we have 7 kids this year.
Really?
Yeah,
what an amazing
totally.
experience. I'd love to. I don't know if I can afford to bring all of us, but I want to so badly.
Right? Totally.
Oh, that would be so cool. Well, actually, so I want to hear a little bit more because one time, I can't remember, I think Carissa did you were on it too, I think, like a televised call about things, and she was talking about all the stuff you can make or the things that you've made. And I was just blown away because I always want to use every part of the animal, but there was just things I never thought of or even heard of. Do you want to name some of like the most unique things that you guys have made there, or you yourself with animal parts in general?
Yeah, totally. I remember that like whatever, that video call we did. Yeah. And Carissa was cracking me up because she was just naming everything really fast.
But I was like exploding.
I think that Carissa's poop garlands have been the most legendary, for real. Like she lovingly collects deer poop, and well, buffalo poop didn't really work that well because it's more like cow patties, but deer poop and elk poop and like all sorts of poop, and she strings it up. And like makes these really, really beautiful garlands that like apparently she still has in her house many years later, and they're delightful.
Just dry now. Yeah,
totally. So that really blew our minds. Let's see. I mean, we've done, especially with the cooking stuff. Like one year, I made pistachio brain souffles with the brains of the animals, and they was delicious. You know, we do a lot of like curing of whole hearts. Buffalo hearts are this big, and so one year we did a whole round of cured buffalo hearts like pastrami, and so we wet brined them and then smoked them and then rubbed them with honey and dry packed like spices all over them. Oh, delicious. I mean, yeah, the food experimentations have been just mind-blowing. And yeah, we've cooked in stomachs before, like the big stomachs of the animals over a like suspended from a tripod, and we put hot rocks in there with water and vegetables, which is really rad. Tanning the honeycomb stomach, which more and more people are doing now, but 10 years ago I didn't know anyone who was tanning the honeycomb stomachs. I mean, I could go on and on. Like, the kids, one year they set up this little table, and they had all these they had eyeballs and blood and marrow and dirt and I don't even know, all fats and stuff. And they had a little spa table. And so they were giving this all spa treatment facials with all these different things in them. Which came about because my little sister who comes to the camp is an esthetician. Okay. And she told me that actually a lot of really high-end products are using stem cells from marrow and eyeballs and all this stuff. And so I was like, yeah, we can do that. So yeah, the kids doing that was hilarious. Yeah, just stuff like that. Literally every single thing that we can try to use, we try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so many people, well, I've been talking about this a lot with the hide tanning and the buckskin because here a lot of people hunt, and I'd say like 99% of them just leave the hide in the forest or like get rid of it. It's just, or they're bringing their animal to this, like the game butchers, and they're not processing themselves. So a lot is wasted. I mean, the hocks, the head, the hide. Well, I'm preaching to the choir because you worked for the wild game butchery too, but so much is wasted. And then even now I've processed 2 deer this year, and I'm still trying to be like, wait, what else can I do with this? And what else can I do with this? And I just want to make sure I'm using all the parts. But sometimes it's hard to know when you get down to, some of the bones and the sinew, and I'm trying to save that. And I'm trying to save everything. And then I'm like, I can't leave this outside too long because then animals just come and take things.
Totally.
So I'll like leave the hawks for a while being like, oh, I'm going to get to those. And then they're just gone. I'm like, oh no. So that's just a skill or many skills that I think we need to keep learning. And you are teaching like nose to tail butchery at your homestead now, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. What do you think that more and more people have become interested in this recently? More so than before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Hmm. Yeah. So right now I offer classes where everybody can kill their own animal.
Okay.
And so if you sign up for a class, you can kill your own sheep or goat for those big animal classes. And I walk you through everything from like sourcing the animal, first of all, because a lot of people aren't raising their own animals. So sourcing, and then we even show how to wrangle them. And so like being able to get them from wherever you're sourcing into your truck to bring home, right? Like we start way back there just so you have all of the skills to start doing this on your own. And then yeah, I walk through the whole process of killing them and using as much as we possibly can in the small frame that we have, which is 3 days, right? Like I could expand the class to be 10 days, but most people can't commit to that. So we do as much as we can in the 3 days. So we're at least getting all of the parts of the animal to some sort of stasis to use later. Like we can't do all the projects in 3 days, but we do a lot. It's pretty amazing how much we do in 3 days. So yeah, at the end of it, every student leaves with every part of their animal. All of the meat is packaged and frozen and ready to go home. You leave with your head and your hide and all your sinew and your little bags and little hawk bags we've made. Like you leave with everything. So it's kind of a special class in that way. A lot of other folks who do slaughter classes, it's kind of like usually kind of a group slaughter. Like a group might kill 2 or something. So that's a little difference in what we offer. Is that you get your own animal and I walk you through the whole thing. And we, the class is always evolving too. It's kind of neat. I keep learning every time and learning how to offer like a more deeply ceremonial and ritualized experience for folks. And so learning how to, weave in like, really deep ancestral connections with our people, because most of us have shepherds somewhere in our ancestral lineage, sometimes not even that far ago or long ago. And so, we do some ancestor work of connecting deep in with the shepherds in our lineage who knew these ways, right? And so, because I don't have personal connection with, say, English and Irish, like shepherding and slaughtering traditions, I wasn't born into that kind of lineage, but we have it inside of us. And so I've been working really hard to remind myself and the people who come that we can have direct access with our ancestors, and it doesn't have to be an abstract like longing for what was lost. We can actually speak with our ancestors and kind of pull that knowledge directly into our own bodies and into our experiences. So that's been a kind of a over the last few years leaning more into that so that we can start repairing the broken lineage, right? And Yeah, so it's really amazing. And I offer also rabbit and chicken classes for people who aren't really maybe ready for like a big animal. And
Hmm.
so there's 1 day rabbit classes and 1 day chicken classes as well to step into that role. And yeah, and I love it so much. It's like to be able to connect. Well, first of all, just to be able to harvest animals with a group of people is so nourishing and healing and really just realigns everything. And so to be able to share that with folks. And a lot of times when people leave my classes, they find roadkill on the way home and just immediately start implementing it into their daily lives, right? It's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It changed their perspective, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And really empower people to, yeah, that death isn't gross and scary and that it's delicious and yummy and good medicine. And yeah, oh, it's so wonderful. It's really wonderful. And I'll just say too, like, this is something I've been thinking about recently is when I talk about it and when I post about it, I mean, I get shadow banned on Instagram all the time, right? Because you're not supposed to say kill or slaughter.
Mm.
And I've been thinking a lot about this recently, and I use that language pretty intentionally when I'm talking about it because I think that I want to be really clear with what I'm doing. And we're killing these animals and we're slaughtering them. And sometimes I hear languaging that kind of like walks around that a little bit. Um, And I've been asking myself, like, yeah, do I change the language around it? Do I say harvest these animals instead or some other kind of euphemism thing? But I think it's okay for us to acknowledge what we're doing. I think it's actually being asked of us to look it directly in the face and not try to change it into something else. Like what we're doing is violent. And it doesn't have to be congruent. Like it doesn't have to be I don't have to create a story in which I'm not killing the animal while I'm killing them. Do you know what I mean? And so I
Yeah.
think it's okay. I know that, like, when I say animal slaughter, it can turn some people off. So I'm just kind of working with that idea a little bit that it is what we're doing and it's hard and it's supposed to be hard. And so let us be with that uncomfortability a little bit more. Let us be with the like challenge inside of us of like, ooh, this is fucking painful. And
Hmm.
like, I don't even know if I should be doing this. Like all those feelings, it's all part of it and it has a proper place in it. So anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there because recently I've been thinking about that a lot.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Like, this is something it's been coming up for me a lot because I'm a new hunter. Like, I haven't gotten my own deer yet. I'm trying, but
Nice.
I come from a very anti-hunting family, and my dad, if you're listening, you should listen to this episode. Is very like much like, well, we have food available to us, so why do you need to go out and kill a deer? Like, you just let the deer live their life, and like, why do you need to do that? And it's I think I used to think that way, but now I'm like, no, like first of all, of course, I want to have this food that was able to live its free, most beautiful, like life, eating what it was meant to eat and not in captivity. I want it to be ethical and quick, hopefully, but we don't always get lucky with that. But that's obviously our goal as hunters is try to get that really quick, ethical shot. But I know I'm going to be sad. I know I'm going to bawl my eyes out the first time. I know it's going to be so, so hard, just like it was when we've processed animals we have here on our homestead. But I feel responsible to feel that feeling, to say, like, it's just part of that. If you want to eat meat, you should feel the sadness for the death for that animal that you are eating. Like, I just think that we've gotten this huge disconnect from that. And maybe it's just because we don't like to feel sad anyway. Like, feeling your feelings is not something a lot of us are really good at.
For
you
real.
know, the
Yeah.
the instinct is to numb it out with something, whether it's a substance or whatever, just avoidance. So it's much easier to buy grocery store meat and not have seen the face and not be connected with it. But to feel responsible for the death is even like next level. It's like something even bigger. Yeah, it's really hard. And I think like most of us really love animals too. Like the people that are doing this, like really love animals. Do you agree? Just
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, totally. Yeah, everybody that comes to my classes, at least, they're that's why they're doing it, is to
Yeah.
know how to do it well. And I have seen that some people get come to the classes because they're looking for a way to kill animals, like like they're looking for a way to kill animals in the best way. But there's this undercurrent of, like, the best way, meaning, like, I'm gonna feel the least sad,
Mm,
and so that is an interesting thing, like, a lot, and people, we talk about this in the class a lot at the end of it. A lot of people are seeking out, yeah, a way to harvest their food without having to feel all the uncomfortability around it, right? But that doesn't happen,
yeah.
and so, at the end, a lot of times people are like, "Wow, I realized that, like, I was still coming at this from an angle that is rooted in death phobia,
Hmm.
and that I was trying to get out of the, like, grief of it, you know? And so realizing that it's just an inherent part of it, and that it doesn't mean that you can't kill animals, and it doesn't mean that you shouldn't kill animals. It is just all proper, and not everybody cries too, and that's okay. Like, some people just have a completely different way about them, and it's all permitted. Yeah, you don't have to cry, and if you do, that's awesome too, you
Hmm.
know? So I just wanna, like, open up the experience for people. Yeah, yeah, there's no wrong way, I don't think.
Yeah. How do you think this could get us on a really big, different tangent of topics? But how do you think having personally killed animals and watched a lot of death, and like learn to use all the parts and see us as part of this cycle, how do you think this has changed your perspective on human death?
Yeah, that's right. This is so fascinating and very near and dear to my heart. Yeah, I mean, the I grew up in modern America. I had no relationship with human death, right? Like, when the grandparents died, it was like you get to peek at their body for 5 seconds and that was it. And no explanation. Like, I didn't grow up in a family that had any relationship with that at all. And so the animals really were my gateway into death and tending death. And it was a long time of working with animal death before I started turning towards human death as well. Um, and working with the animal death really allowed me I don't know if it's comfortability, maybe it's familiarity with death and with this way it smells and looks and feels, and yeah, how to sit death side, how to sit as an animal is dying and be with them in that, in all the uncomfortability and grief. And so it was kind of a natural progression into being really interested in, yeah, human death. And um I studied with a man named Stephen Jenkinson, who's pretty renowned in the death tending world. And so I started attending his school years ago, and um I mean, the school is a lot of things, but it really helped to illuminate death phobia and how it functions in our culture, and what good death might be, and how a lot of people who die in our culture don't die very good deaths. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I've been really interested in death culture, and um, so through that, I became a death doula, and which is really hard because I can see ways that we can improve our relationship with death, and but it's also not my place to interject that into someone's life or into, like, circles of people, right? I feel like we could do it so much better. And in my younger years, I was a little more forthright in speaking about that, but people tend to really defend
Mhm.
their ways around birth and death, right? And so I operate a little bit differently, but I do think that we're really supposed to be around death. And I think we're really supposed to take care of our dying people and at home. And I think that it's really important to do that for so many reasons. And I also personally believe that the spirit doesn't just leave the body as soon as somebody dies, and that it takes several days, right? And a lot of cultures talk about this,
Mhm.
especially, I mean, we know about the Irish wake, right? And so there's a lot of cultures that still practice this, is that you sit with the dead body for 3 days.
Mhm.
And so, and that's to help them leave. And I've experienced this before in my work with the dead. And, but the wake he- is, I haven't been able to do a 3-day wake yet because of all the thoughts and ideas around that in the family, right? Um, but I think it's really important. And yeah, I mean, I could say so much about this. And I don't know anything either. So I don't want to come off as I know what's best, I know what's healthiest, right? I just think there's ways that we can expand our capacities with this, and that there's really a lot at stake if we
Mhm.
don't.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have a kind of unique perspective because I practiced wound care and I would go into nursing homes and like treat all of the wounds there, which are, anything from bed sores to diabetic foot ulcers, all kinds of stuff like that. And really, until I worked deep in all different kinds of nursing homes, I didn't actually understand or know like what it was like and what was going on there. And I don't mean a lack of care, because that's not true. I think people kind of are quick to be like, oh, they have bed sores, they didn't care for them. That's not true, actually. A lot of them are on air mattresses being turned every whatever. It's just that the human body was like very, very slowly decaying away, like years, because it just wasn't normal. It just was not being tended to the way it should, or the person almost like it's just being artificially kept alive for far too long. And it's just awful. Yeah, that is my opinion. I am putting my opinion in there because I don't want it for myself. Maybe other people don't see it as awful and they want to let the person or try to keep the person alive as long as possible. But that's again just just a lack of comfort with death. So you think that you'd rather just keep this like shell of a body alive as long as possible, instead of being like, no, 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 like this is worse than this, which is normal. Um, and it really changed my perspective on everything and changed how I look at my own death, eventually, and my parents. And that's actually just talking about more like the process too. Being a death doula and helping people die or helping that transition, not even necessarily what happens to the body after, which is a whole other conversation. So many things are just so disconnected, and we're almost giving animals, not all animals, obviously, but we're almost giving a lot of animals more dignity than we are humans,
Yeah,
especially
I know.
cats and dogs. you know, like um
Yeah.
people are, quick to I used to be a vet tech too. I've had a lot of a long time ago. um and we would sometimes have people like take their dog and be like, well, I want them to be outside when they die. And they didn't let them get to like the bitter end of suffering. And then they'd bring their favorite toys and their blanket, and the whole family would gather around and we'd take them outside and they'd give them, first they give them the sedative and then they give them the lethal injection, which is still super peaceful. And they just fall asleep and out in the sunshine. And I'm like, that is so much better than most of the human deaths that I've witnessed. So isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Thanks for speaking to all of that. Yeah, it really is. It's like people are super afraid of letting their family die. And right. So, and then they have this cultural story that, well, no, love is keeping them alive no matter what. But
Mm.
then they also don't want to take care of them. So then they put them in a nursing home. And it's like, but if you actually just let them die, then you don't have to put them in a nursing home, right? Like if you let them die when they're supposed to die rather than keep them alive through all this artificial shit. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the whole system it's fucking terrible. And oh, right. I think a lot of it has to do with the death phobia. And, I'll be honest, like when my dad was dying, he was put on life support, which nobody ever told me how absolutely nightmarish and horrific life support actually is. Like, it's not life support. It is something so dark and twisted. And watching my dad just completely, like, because he was supposed to be dead and they weren't letting him die. And so the way his body got mutated and like all this stuff was happening. And right, but I wasn't really allowed to say that because if I said, oh, I just want my dad to die, then it's like, well, what's wrong with you? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And so, right. I mean, yeah, it is. It's a trip. Yeah, but and if we exercise our ability to be with death and know that death is proper and a good thing and is holy and it can be lovely too, like death can be lovely, like with people's pets. Death
Yeah.
can be a lovely experience. It doesn't have to be like in a hospital room under fluorescent lighting getting overdosed. Like it could be something totally different. And yeah, and I think everybody would probably benefit from that. Um Yeah, goodness gracious. I would recommend folks coming from like a death doula perspective to fill out an advance directive
Yeah.
on what you want to happen and think these things through so that it doesn't happen to you without your consent because sometimes that happens too, you know? And so yeah, fill out your advance directive, look into your local laws about home burial or or home death and what that would take, like do all the paperwork now before somebody dies. And that's something I talk a lot about is because you don't want to be trying to figure this out after somebody dies when you're
Right.
in
When
grief.
right, when you're in the depths of grief and yeah, into panicking of what do I do? Or there's pressure from people to do certain things. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And everyone does have their own wishes. So and some people still like this is what actually I was talking about this with my husband and he gets kind of upset with me because I do like maybe what you were saying, like have very strong, thoughts about it and opinions about it. And he's like, Jill, like some people do still want to be embalmed and be in the casket and be put in, I almost said planted. That would be nice. I want to be planted. I want to have a tree planted on me. Yeah, be, put in a graveyard with a headstone. And people still want that because that's what they've known and their family's there. And he's like, you can't judge that either, like that if that's their wishes. And I'm like, yes, that's true. Everyone has their own wishes, but if they learned about these different things or like, what you had written about too, about the chemicals leaching into the earth from, all the burial processes we do now, just different things. And now there are becoming more and more options. And if we weren't also afraid of death and talking about it and thinking about it, we could make such better informed decisions and maybe change the way that this is being handled as a culture, which would be really, really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. The conversations we need to be able to talk about it. And honestly, like most of my family they will not talk about death at
Mm.
all. Like no matter how much I'm like, so we're all gonna die, and they're like, nope, nope, not doing it, Harmony, you and your weird death shit. Like, like, yeah.
Yeah, but
And
the
so,
animals are teaching us that. And then, like, do you sing songs? Because I'm sure you do. Because don't you guys sing a lot of songs at Buffalo Bridge too? Where did
yeah.
you learn those, or where did those come from?
Yeah, some of them I wrote or caught. I don't like taking credit when songs just come to you. Some of them I caught, some I mean they've come from all over the like song circle community. And I couldn't even tell you who exactly came up with each one because they've been passed down through so many people and have shifted and changed so much. But yeah, we have a good collection of slaughter songs that are super sweet. And a lot of folks, yeah, at the end of it like surrounded with flowers and yeah, all of us singing and crying. A lot of folks are like, I want to die like that.
Hmm.
Like, may we be so blessed as to die like that, being sung to and surrounded by friends and family. And so, yeah, we sing a lot. Um, yeah, it's a really beautiful experience. Death can be lovely.
Yeah, that's what made me think of it. I'm like, that's what I would want. I want the sun shining. I want people singing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something we're offering on the land here is that because there's a really strong death doula community on the Olympic Peninsula, and there's people working really hard to do more home deaths and home funerals and stuff. And so something we're offering here is space for folks to come to die at the end of life. And so this is just in the very beginning of it. And it started because there was someone dying whose last wishes were to die in the forest, right?
Mhm.
Not in a city somewhere. And so they had asked if they could come here, and yeah, we were working that out. They ended up dying the night before they were going to come here, and so it wasn't meant to be for that one. But it opened up this whole idea of like, oh yeah, we can offer that here. And so right now, what it would look like is a wall tent with a wood stove, and eventually we'd like to build a little cabin or a cottage or something so that folks can come and for free. Like this isn't a business plan, right?
Mm.
But just offer, yeah, people an ability to come and die in a peaceful way in the forest. And that's just the very beginning of like bigger dreams and visions too, right? I'm obsessed with a green burial, like starting a
Mhm.
green burial, and we're taking steps towards something of that kind. And yeah, Washington is really hard for home burials. Like I think Maine, I mean, I buried one of my friends on her properties in Maine, and it was just like you just do it. I don't know what it is like where you live,
I didn't
but
know that,
I
but
don't
I
think
know
we
they
need to ask.
I know they approved like Viking peer funerals though, where you can like, so that's cool.
That's fucking rad.
Yeah.
Yeah, Washington is not easy, like, home burial is illegal still,
Mm.
and the green burials, there's a couple of them, but, they're very far away, and so, yeah, this state is really tricky for reclaiming those death traditions, but there are a couple little things you can do to try to get around those really prohibitive laws. I mean, it's so fucked up that we can't bury our own dead. Like,
Yeah.
what? I have to
Yeah.
bury it in a corporate cemetery? Like, that's not gonna happen. And so, yeah, we're working really hard to change that here.
Yeah, I know. I have a dream of like a forest where, or like a field, but then people can come and whether the person's cremated or it is just the body, obviously without chemicals, and they can plant like a tree on top of it and then have like a plaque on the tree. And like that's the gravestone because I think people do want to come somewhere to like visit with their loved one. They like the idea of like a place that they could come to, but something that makes it, I don't know, more alive, like were reborn in the tree.
Yeah, totally. That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
I really believe that. I know. And bless the other alternatives. Like in Seattle, there's a human composting business.
Mm.
And that is a great option for folks because we don't have access to home burial yet. And still it's like composting bodies in plastic barrels outside of the like natural systems still, right? So it's still separated from the earth. And I don't know, I'm like, I'm happy that that alternative exists. And I wish it didn't have to exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I knew that was going to take us on a long tangent, but I think it's good.
Yeah.
It's a good topic to talk about.
For real. Yeah.
I do want to talk to you a little bit about hunting because I guess I was listening to the one podcast where you're talking about hunting and I didn't really realize, your story or your journey with that. I just interviewed recently or had on the podcast recently the woman who started Maine Women Hunters, and it was sort of that podcast was really just more about how do women start hunting? It's so much harder for a woman to just randomly start hunting without anyone to teach her if you don't have people in your family who did that, which is basically what I've encountered. And I think, you're a little bit different and I'm a little bit different in that we might be approaching it too now from this sort of same mindset of the whole animal butchery, more spiritual, more interacting with the animal, thinking about the life you took. And I was thinking about this because I told you I haven't gotten a deer yet, but when I walk out into the woods, especially in the dark in the morning, I feel like prey. I don't feel like a predator. Like I'm walking out there with this like prey mentality, like I'm scared. I'm I'm alone in the dark in the woods. I wonder if other women feel that way too. Like how do we get into that predator mentality a little bit more and in a positive way? Like in this like in the way that like how can I become the coyote and not feel like I'm just another one of the deer in the forest? Or do we need to be the deer to, connect with them in the forest? What do you think about that?
I love this. Huh. Wow. Let me think about it. I haven't hunted in a couple years because I've been doing full-time homestead. So I have to like get into my hunter mentality now. I think that, hmm. Right. In my experience, yeah, women approach it way differently. And I would say I mostly feel like a prey still in the forest. And maybe there's something really special about that actually. And cuz I've hosted women's hunting camps before cuz I was always looking for like a woman hunter mentor and I never really found the one that I imagined existed somewhere. And so that's when I just put out a call to other women who were interested in hunting and said, let's just have a camp in the woods and figure it out. And so I'm not a very good hunter. And I think that we we approach it in a very different way. I'll say I'm not a very good hunter because I'm not super interested in sneaking into someone's home and murdering them. That's not really my vibe, right? And so I'm more interested in praying, leaving offerings, and making a case for myself. And then if a deer presents itself, then I'll say yes, right? Which means most years I'm not successful. And I'm okay with saying taking no for an answer. And so
Mm.
that's what I mean when I say I'm not a very good hunter. Because I don't take shots that basically the only times I've been successful hunting, the deer have looked me in the eyes and walked towards me and turned broadside. And it's been a really clear agreement. And so a lot of the women at the women's hunting camps kind of felt similarly. And so a lot of what we did at hunting camp wasn't stalking, tracking. It was like building beautiful shrines in the forest and praying and crying and singing,
Mm.
and planting their food. Like that was something that was really important to us is planting their physical food first. And so I do think there's something cool about being the deer, right? And being on their level. And also I think it's okay to become predator too. Like, right, I don't want to rewrite the story that we're not being a predator because we are.
Mhm.
And so there's something holy and sacred in that dance. And so yeah, I think it just maybe it has more to do with doing the things that bring us into alignment first. And then when we're in alignment, then when we walk in the forest, we walk with purpose and we walk with confidence. When I've gone hunting and I haven't made offerings and I haven't sang and I haven't brought myself into that good place, I don't feel good, right? I
Mhm.
feel kind of weird and guilty and yeah, a little bit timid or scared, like something's off.
Yep.
But when I've taken the time and I like light the candle and I have the prayers and I'm like really walking in that prayer, then it's kind of all laid out for you, right? So, yeah, there's something to that. And like I said, it's okay to be predator too. It's okay to be fucking walk with your gun and know what you're doing and have that slinky, yeah, coyote, wolf, cougar, like that's beautiful. So I think there's place for all of it, and maybe
Mhm.
that's how women not I mean men can do this too, but I think primarily my experience has been with women walking in this way of kind of it's a shapeshifter. That's cool. We can be
Yeah.
shapeshifters. I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. That's really beautiful. I think I've been, sitting out there freezing and then sometimes like something is off. Like you said, I've thought, the reason I haven't gotten a deer yet is because I'm not comfortable. I'm scared. I'm nervous. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to feel taking this life. I don't want it bad enough yet because we have 2 deer in the freezer because one of our friends hit one with a car and then my oldest son got his first deer. So maybe I'm
Nice.
also feeling like the need for that food is not quite as dire as it could be. So maybe that's why, and I also accept that like when it's the time is right and it's going to happen. But it is hard when you're out there cold all the time, trying, putting that time in. But that's part of the process too, that's going to make me even more grateful when it does happen.
Yeah, totally. I know. I have so many years where man, I've spent weeks out there looking and haven't even seen an animal, right?
Hmm.
And so and something that came to me I think maybe the first year or second year I did women's hunting camp was that there were animals being killed all around us, right, during hunting season, like hundreds
Hmm.
of animals being killed all the time. And something that became clear to us is that part of our work was to thank the animals that are being killed. Because I don't know how all those animals or how all those hunters are. And, living in Montana, at least in my area of rural Montana, where I was doing a lot of hunting, like that culture isn't a culture that gives thanks to the deer. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
and bless them. Like a lot of those families have been hunting and have this kind of uh sustenance. What is it? Like sustenance hunting. Um and yeah, they learned from their granddads and all of that. And so they have this kind of intact lineage of hunting. And like, yeah, maybe the deer needed more celebration. And so we spent a lot of time celebrating the deer that were being killed, even though we weren't successful. And that
Yeah.
felt really important and holy and sacred.
Yeah. That's a good point. I can definitely do that here because we're in a similar boat in this area, I think. Um, let's see. I think something else I want to talk to you about because I struggle with this and I'm thinking you probably do too is just social media and like especially living off grid. Like you were saying, you're charging your phone in your car. How are you like getting out there to post? And then how do we kind of like find that place where you want to live off grid or like be disconnected from some of this like some of these modern things, but then that's the only way to connect with some really cool people or to get your word out or get your message out. How do you find that balance?
Oh God. I wish I knew. Ew. It's so hard. Yeah. I never had social media. I never even had a Facebook until we started the school. And then actually Carissa's husband Eric started the Instagram for us, bless him,
Mhm.
and was running it. And then when they moved to Vermont, then I took it over. So this is the first time in my life, and I'm 37. It's the first time in my life I've had any social media. So, and I did that on purpose because I know how addictive it is and, all the things that go along with it. So I'm learning how to navigate it. I don't really know what the balance is. I mean, I have been connecting with really wonderful people.
Yeah.
And so for that, I'm really grateful. And I experience the really serious addiction cycles and just like all the things that I don't think we're designed to handle, right? And so even though I don't have a smartphone, like, right? So it's not like it's in my pocket all the time. And yet still the pull is so strong. So I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I don't know. I'm in that kind of in between place right now where there's beauty coming from it. And the beauty just about meets the soul sucking aspects. It's
Mhm.
almost equal. So I wish I had an answer, but I just don't know.
I know. I agree. I mean, I have a hard time because I'm not really I'm not good at sharing myself. I don't really like videos of myself, pictures of myself. And then I'm like struggling because, oh, we're doing a lot of cool stuff. Like I'm homeschooling my two youngest now. And like we have the little homestead and I'm, processing these animals here, doing things. And then I get scared to share it, or it's like this invisible, massive, infinite audience, it seems like. And then sometimes I want to, sometimes I just want to hide.
Yeah.
But yeah. But then I find people like you, and all these really amazing, cool things. And without it, I wouldn't have ever known about these things. So definitely a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, it's so hard. And well, this self-comparison stuff too that comes up, it's just brutal. Like, yeah, how much of my life do I want to show? And like, I want to show people, but then also like I have to check myself. Is this ego talking? Is it because I want to be included in the big swirling social story? Yeah, where is it coming from? I don't know, man. I just don't know. I try to just pray that yeah, we're reaching the people and we can connect and that we're doing good and inspiring.
Hmm.
I don't know, but I never want to make someone feel like shit about their lives. No?
Or we tailor what we see so much that I was just saying this to someone else that I love hide tanning and I'm getting so into it because it's just felt right. It just feels so amazing to me and I love it so much. But I follow so many natural hide tanners that I'm like, oh, no one really, wants to see this because there's so much, like everyone's already seeing it and everyone's like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't see any of that. It's just that that's the microcosm of what I have. Like, I'm following so many natural hide tanners that I think, oh no, are they going to think I'm copying them if I do this or if I post this or if I start doing it? And then I'm like, wait a minute, this is not like the masses. This is just this is just a little thing that I've created for myself because I love it so much. So it's kind of funny that I don't know. What are other people looking at that they think that everyone's doing this and really it's not everybody at all?
Yeah. I say put it out there. If you want to, put it out there. And if you want to hide.
Yeah. Yeah. It ebbs and flows.
Totally. Yeah, I feel that for real. Honestly, if I wasn't running classes, I think I'd delete my Instagram.
Yeah. It's just the best way to promote things. Yeah.
It is. It sucks. Hand-drawn flyers don't work that well anymore.
Yeah. Zines.
I try.
Oh, yeah. Well, what is there anything else that you really want to talk about or touch on that you're feeling, I don't know, passionate about or called to right now?
Wow. So interesting. Gosh, what am I passionate about?
A lot of things.
Oh, so many things. I mean, something really new for me is the Cobb house building.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about that.
Yeah. So, right through my pilgrimages in the Isle of Man and England and Ireland, seeing those old cottages there, I just got so inspired. And, so we took a 3-day workshop in July, and then we came home and started building a house.
Oh my gosh.
So it is,
cool.
Yeah, we just really went for it.
Tobin.
And we're pretty close. Like, we're getting there. We have a couple feet left on the walls. And then the roof, we're doing the roof today. And the roof is on. We're just putting metal on. So, yeah, this has been a new chapter in my life of learning how to build with earth. And in a really quite human scale way. We're by hand, we're making little bricks out of the soil that we're building with. And so it's a long process. And also 4 months for a house isn't that long, right? And that's how long we've been building is about 4 months. And so
what is I actually don't know. Like, how do you make what does the Cobb house mean? Like, what's the process?
Yeah, so Cobb is subsoil. So usually subsoil has clay, right? And some sort of sand in it. And it's just the subsoil mixed with water and straw. That's it.
Okay.
And then you're literally building with mud. It's amazing. It is so amazing. And so the style we learned from a teacher who kind of developed his own style. And you're basically just using little tarps, little 3x2 tarps. And you're mixing on these little tarps and just creating little bricks that you just stack one at a time. And you kind of smear them. They're made of clay, right? So you kind of smear it. And that's how you build up the walls. And also
fire them?
No.
They just dry out?
Nope. They dry. Yep, it dries. And then you finish it with a plaster you can do a clay plaster, or what we'll do is lime. So those old cottages in Ireland, they're whitewashed. And so that's lime, and it really waterproofs it. So yeah, this is how a lot of cottages were built all through England and Ireland. Some of them are 500 years old.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's amazing. Right. And so, yeah, and I'm not saying that the exact thing we're doing is Irish or is English, right? It's like there's some variations, but I'm trying to design the house to be as close to an Irish cottage as it can be, given our circumstance and all of that. Except for the thatch roof. We're not doing a thatch roof.
Which they're so amazing, but that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, and it would just be mold heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just feeling really inspired by this because I think that especially with housing insecurity and housing crisis and all the things like how expensive everything is and how toxic the building
Hmm.
supplies are, it really is a viable way for someone to build a home just out of the earth. It's so simple. And you know, we didn't take time sourcing all of the things like windows and the roofing. We bought roofing material because we just needed a roof. So we spent, quite a bit of money. But all said and done, our house is going to cost less than 15 grand total.
Hmm.
And that's like excavator rental, all the things like total. And it could be way cheaper than that. If people took time to source their own like things on Facebook Marketplace, for instance, I think you could get a house under 10 grand.
Yeah.
So I just want to inspire people that it's viable and that it's safe and that it's awesome and that we lived in mud huts for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years and that you too can live in a mud hut.
Yeah. So does it like could people build these anywhere? Does it have to be the soil? The soil have to be a certain type of soil, or really just like I could go back on our property and start making the bricks?
So, I mean, I'm not that experienced, but my teacher, who's been doing it for 20 years, he said he's never found a subsoil that didn't work. So, you're not
Okay.
using the topsoil, you're digging down into the geologic material, right? Because topsoil is um, like
Mm.
biological material, but then the subsoil is mineral. And so, from what I understand, most places have clay subsoil. You only
Yeah.
need about 5% clay. Like, you don't need a ton of clay. So a lot of people will dig down and be like, "Oh, we don't have clay." But you probably do.
Yeah.
And if you don't, move 10 feet, dig down again, And so I do think it's actually really viable. And we live in the rainforest. And I mean, think about England and Ireland. They're super rainy and
Hmm.
they've been standing for 500 years. So I think it works in most ecosystems. Um, and yeah, subsoil is everywhere.
Is
I
there a
mean,
base?
most
Like,
places.
what's the base of the house?
Yeah, so you start with stacked rock.
Okay.
So for the wall, right? Because you don't want mud walls sitting on the ground because they'll wick moisture up from the ground. So you
Mm.
do need to do stacked rock or some sort of like rock foundation for the
Hmm.
walls to sit on so that water can't move up the walls.
Okay.
That's one of the big considerations. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's really awesome. I can't wait to see when it's finished.
Yeah, I know, me too. I'll be posting about it. We're hoping by springtime we'll move in.
Mm.
Yeah. It's pretty exciting.
Well, I think that we covered a lot of awesome stuff. I really appreciate your time, Harmony. This has been a really, really fun conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. It's like really fun to chat with you and I hope we get to cross paths when I go to Maine. Maybe I'll go to
Yeah.
Moose
Oh my
Ridge
gosh.
and we can
Oh,
talk.
we would love to have you up here. I really hope to get
Yeah.
to Buffalo Bridge. I don't know if it'll be this year, but sometime it's going to happen. It's a bucket list.
Yeah.
Well,
Awesome.
before I let you go, just tell everyone where they can find you, your site, your Instagram, so they can find you here. I'll put the show links to. They'll have the links in the show notes as well. But
Sweet. Yeah, on Instagram, we're at Gathering Ways, and the website is just www.gatheringways.com. And that's gonna be, yeah, where people can find us.
and are you going to have more classes coming up this like spring and summer?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'll start posting sometime this winter for the classes in the spring.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this conversation, please take a moment to leave a review. In that review, I would love to hear what topics you'd like to see covered next and which guests you'd love to hear from in future episodes. You can connect with me on Instagram at Original Being Podcast, and be sure to follow, like, and share the podcast on all platforms to help spread the word. Thanks for listening.